Exalted Entertainment Radio. This is Kiara D on the Love Factor, where it's all about relationships. Today's show is sponsored by Freedom Fitness. You have the freedom of speech, freedom of religion, but now it's time to experience freedom of fitness. Come on and get your fit on at Freedom Fitness 4520, located at 4520 Hillside Avenue, right here in Indianapolis, Indiana. For more information on their boot camp style classes or their personal training, check out Freedom Fitness Love or Freedom Fitness on Facebook.com. I'm Kiara D, and today we are addressing interracial relationships. And for that reason, I have three lovely people in the studio with me. Welcome to the show, Leslie, Colin, and Francesca. Thank you all for joining me today.
Hey.
Morning.
All right, so as I said, we are addressing interracial relationships. They all have unique stories about their lifestyle, about their controversies that they've dealt with in the past. They have unique stories about how they've been able to deal with people. And so today we're going to bring some light to this situation, considering that Martin Luther King Day is right around the corner. I figured, why not now? Why not shed light on this situation? Because it seems like it's a controversial issue in our society to be able to accept a white guy with a black girl or a black one man with a white girl and vice versa. And so first and foremost, before we get into all of that great stuff, Francesca, if you could just share a little bit about your upbringing and, introduce yourself.
Hi, it's Francesca. I'm mixed or biracial or whatever you want to call it, mulatto. I like to make fun of it, but I am I'm the product of an interracial relationship. So my mother was black and my father is white. Okay. And here I am.
All right, Leslie.
Good morning. Leslie Gordon, born and raised in Indy. Both my parents are black, and I kind of grew up in a more suburban atmosphere. Met my husband at IU and been in love ever since, and glad to share some light on our relationship.
She said in love. Colin, talk about it. Where you come from?
I come from a small town up in northern Indiana, but it's got one stoplight. We used to say the only diversity in our hometown was the Asian family that owned the Chinese buffet.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
So I lived in that kind of town for a while. So
Wow. Okay, so first and foremost, for all of you that may not have caught on to what, to our panelists, Colin and Leslie, they are married. How long have you all been together?
It'll be 2 years in March.
Okay.
But we've been together 8 years.
All right. And so I know with that, you guys probably experienced some type of controversy or some judgment amongst society. And so, Leslie, first and foremost, if you could just talk a little bit about the type of comments that you probably get or the looks. I'm sure you get looks from time to time. Like, how? Share a little bit about that.
I have to say, we're pretty fortunate. We definitely get some looks.
Okay.
I know Colin might be able to speak a little bit more. I tend to put my blinders on when I'm on a mission or I have things I'm doing. It is very streamlined. But no, we'll get looks. Comments, very few. But you can tell.
You can feel it.
It is more of a feeling.
Yeah.
You can tell when someone's uncomfortable or they brace a question interestingly or they don't want to say a black or
right.
Like they don't want to say some of those things you can tell or they told a joke differently
and see,
when you weren't there.
For that reason, I mean, we're going to address it head on here on the show today. It's black, it's white, Some people are really picky about those terms, but how do you all feel about it?
I think it's funny. I don't really take it that seriously. I don't get offended that easily by that kind of thing. The older I get, the more I realize, most people aren't racist. Mm-hmm. I think most people aren't, they don't understand or they're curious. But most people aren't racist, in my opinion. So I like to take it head on, and I like to laugh about it.
Colin?
I mean, I just think they're just words. I don't really consider it to be defining qualities of us. I mean, there's often times when people want to try and put us into
a box
of who we're supposed to be based off of something like that, and it's really so much more than just a color.
Yeah.
So how did you two come to know each other? I mean, did you just wake up one day and say, hey, I'm going to marry somebody that's another race? I mean, how did you two end up in a relationship together?
Well, it's actually really funny because I guess it was the joke when I left to go to college at a big college that I was going to come home with a black girl. And it was something that was real. I had never really considered it a possibility because there was nobody of other races in the community I grew up in. And then just met Leslie, and it totally wasn't this is a really cool black girl. It was just, this is a really cool girl, and I want to get to know her more. And we just started off going to hang out a little bit, and we've been together for almost 9 years since then.
Wow. Leslie, what was your motivation? Was it like one day you just kind of got up and said, hey, I don't want to be with my race. I'd rather date outside my race. How did you come to that point?
It started, I guess, growing up in like high school and junior high. I whatever you would call dating in junior high and high school, it really wasn't that intense. But there were a few black guys that were interested, and we conversed, we had a good time, but it was never anything serious. And my first serious boyfriend in high school was white, and then that kind of ended, and went to school, and I met Colin. Like I said, it was just, we clicked right away. It was never really a white-black thing, but I will say I don't feel like I've been in a lot of situations where I've been surrounded by a bunch of black men where it's like that, or I've had them come to me to where that was the big thing to choose from.
How did you all's family respond once they saw you together? Did you kind of get some awkward stares, or, did you have people pulling you aside and questioning you about your relationship? Like, how did you all deal with it?
My family's pretty open about race. I think any black family has their jokes, those white boys, or those kind of comments that come out, but I don't think it's anything that was to heart. I've never felt like it was, nervous or scared to bring Colin home to meet my family. I was more or less like, these are some strong ladies. They're going to say what they're going to say. Like, just be prepared. But no, I've never felt that kind of...
They're happy if you're happy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Colin, if you could share just a little bit.
My family loves Leslie, so the first time I brought her back to my hometown, I let my mom know that she wasn't going to be white. She thought I was joking, and I was pretty much like, well, you're going to find out when she gets there. And so, I had my reservations about what the experience was going to be like when Leslie came to that town. But, everybody just loved her. My family loves her to death.
Was she the first black girl that you ever dated?
Yes.
Wow, and you put a ring on it. Hey, I have to give you props for that.
He's a strong man. To be able to deal with that, because you do get looks and you do get judgment. So you really have to be a strong person, especially as the man in the relationship. You have to be very strong to deal with that, I think.
Yeah, I feel like I get looks more often.
Oh, yeah.
Where oftentimes it's almost like I feel like black men don't just assume that I'm not with Leslie. Like I'm her accountant walking.
Well, it's more
her bodyguard.
It's more popular for us to see as a society a white female with a black guy.
Right.
But when the roles are reversed,
you're breaking all the rules.
It's a little different. It's a little different. But Francesca, if you could share a little bit about your journey, because I know you probably dealt with it from a whole different standpoint, considering you're biracial.
Yeah, well, the first 12 years of my life, I lived in Fort Wayne, Indiana. So, there definitely was diversity. Most of the people I went to school with were black. There were white people there, too. There were both, But I would say in Fort Wayne, the most racism I experienced was really from black people, actually.
Wow.
But when I moved to North Manchester, which is a very small town in northern Indiana, 7,000 people, I was, one of like 3 people in my high school who was what I like to call of color, because, I'm not fully black, I'm not white, But then I really experienced racism firsthand. I really understood what it meant to be different, to stand out, and it was from white people. So I've experienced it from both, white and black people. And but anyway, being a product of an interracial relationship, it's never been an issue who I bring home. Whoever I bring home is going to be fine as long as I like them. It would always be okay.
Well, did you deal with the fact that people like your friends, your peers, did they ever perceive you as just dating one race?
Yeah, I get that to this day. People will ask me, because most of the men that I've dated have been white. And that's not because I prefer white men, because I don't, actually. I'm attracted to a lot of different men. They can be black, they can be white.
It's all about personality.
It's all about your personality.
Yeah.
If I think you're cute, it doesn't matter what color you are to me, So So, but I still get that to this day. People will say, you know, you date mostly white guys. Does that mean you only like white guys? That's I don't. If you do only like white guys, I think that's fine, actually. You should only date someone that you're attracted to. So if I'm not attracted to you because you're white, it doesn't mean that I'm racist. It just means that I'm not attracted to white men, you know, and that's okay.
Right.
But, you know, I date a lot of white guys, I guess. I think they're cute. But people do ask me that. So does that mean you don't like black men? That's not true.
You know, I'm sure you both have gotten the comment that maybe, oh, you talk proper or you talk white. I mean, how do you respond to those comments? Because it's like people put you in a box. In reality, you're just articulate, you know. But how do you respond to those individuals?
I get that a lot. A lot of people, especially being in a public setting professionally, I get a lot of people that say, oh, you speak so well. Oh,
I hate that.
So, friend, I'm fighting this because it's one of those things that I have to accept. You have to receive it because it is positive, and I get what people are saying, but it does. It's like, how else would I say?
How else would I say?
Yeah, like, especially because it's my profession.
No, they want you to speak hood.
Yeah, or she's not
hood language.
So it's a balance. You have to learn how to understand where they're coming from, where their heart lies with that statement, whether they're trying to be nasty with it or if they're just saying you did a good job. And sometimes that is just all people are saying, but at first it's really hard, and you have to take a moment.
Yeah, you kind of like you want to say excuse me, but I don't think those people are necessarily racist. No. I think they just don't get it. They don't, you know, they've not been exposed the way that we have. You're with a white man, so where you've been around white people. I think a lot of times white people haven't seen that kind of thing.
It sounds like it's more so cultural, though.
It's a cultural.
If you think about it, if you all consider your backgrounds, your upbringing, whatever, it's like that played a major role in your decisions as far as who you date. Like you said, Francesca, I mean, you dated a lot of white guys, but the hometown that you come from, you know?
Yeah, my dad is white. I mean, so I can date whoever I want to date.
But Colin, I know people probably come at you with, I mean, they might not come directly, but I'm sure you feel it. People probably think, oh, you think you're better than somebody just because you got you a black girl. I mean, how do you feel about those type of, because I'm sure you felt it. I'm sure you've experienced it in one way or another. How do you respond, or how do you feel about all of that?
I wouldn't really say anybody's really ever come at me for anything. It's usually just, you know, I'll notice looks and stuff and kind of feel like people are, I don't know, I guess I feel like I can tell that they're looking at us, but it never really bothers me. I always just brush it off. I'd say the thing that bothered me the most would be when people try and, like, quantify Leslie's blackness. Well, she's not that black because she speaks properly.
Okay. That's more of a challenge than people telling me I speak well. It's, I forget you're black sometimes.
I hate that.
Oh, wow.
Some people don't think that I am black. Yeah, they'll be
I didn't think you were
mixed.
Yeah, I thought you were mixed.
I get that a lot.
Wow, that's crazy. I'm glad you all are bringing some light to this conversation, to the situation, because a lot of our listeners really need to know that it's not about black or white, but it's more so about what's on the inside. It's what's in your heart, and it's not about who you date. At the end of the day, I mean, you turn off the lights, we're all the same color.
Yeah.
You can't see anybody.
We all want the same things.
Right.
We all want to be happy. We all want to be successful. I mean,
absolutely. And so, for anybody that's listening right now, if you want to get in on the conversation, make sure you click the chat icon, and I will be able to see your comments or questions right here live on air. So again, if you want to get in on the conversation, just click the chat icon, and we will be able to talk about your questions, comments, or concerns right here live on air. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about you all. How did you get to the point where you embraced each other? Because I know, I'm not sure, but I'm pretty sure that you all probably had a moment where it's like, it was questionable, like, am I really seeing somebody of the opposite race? Or, I mean, like, did you ever have that a bit of discomfort at all? Or was it kind of natural right away?
I wouldn't say there was ever really, like, a moment of discomfort, but there were times when I wondered whether or not, like, I was prepared for the, you know, if this is what I wanted for forever. You know, like,
right, you have to be so strong.
But then it really just came down to, you know, like, this was the person I wanted to be with. So it really wasn't a question about it. But there were times, you know, there have been, you know, we've had our moments where it was just kind of like, are we prepared to deal with this. But I mean, we look at it and we're so much better off than a generation ago.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah.
you know, I mean,
Yeah.
40, 50 years ago, we wouldn't be able to be together, especially in different
so
parts of
true.
the country. And so it's like now, you know, we consider ourselves blessed that, you know, it's not worse than it, you know, but obviously it still needs to get better.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know.
Well, I was gonna say for us, it's fine. Like just going out every day, representing who I am. I'm very proud of that. I'm very proud of my husband and our relationship. I get a little nervous about having children, though.
Really?
And
That was going to be my next question.
That's interesting.
That is that actually is because you can't. I can control how I react and feel, but sometimes you can't control that. And so to be able to let that go and bring them up right, and you want to shield them from any of those bad moments or bad attitudes. So that sometimes really is hard for me to.
And that's where you get Francesca to kind of come along and say, hey, I got you. You know, teach them how to respond to the negativity that might come their way, because you know kids can be very cruel. They don't care. They will say whatever they want to say and have no remorse, no pity whatsoever. And when they say it, for instance, like my daughter, she has a birthmark on her cheek, and I love it. I think it's beautiful, but I've always been concerned, how are people going to respond to her? Are the kids going to pick on her? How do I prepare her for this? And so I have a friend who has the same experience. Her daughter has a birthmark on her cheek. Interesting enough, she's in an interracial relationship too. But yeah, it's just like I asked her how did she deal with it, and I mean, it just basically came down to trying to prepare my daughter for that moment, because now my daughter, she thinks it's a tattoo. I'm like, hey, way to go. You know, that's better than what I would have ever thought of. I was just going to say it's a kiss from God or something. I don't know. But yeah, she really thinks it's a tattoo. So it's like she's already prepared to deal with the negativity. And in the same respects, you all have to kind of prepare your children for all the negativity that might come their way, because it's not like we're going to ever be able to do without it. We're going to face it one way or another.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going anywhere anytime soon. But.
It is getting better. I agree with Colin, because when I was growing up, there weren't really any mixed kids. Me and my sisters there were just a few of us. And now there's a lot of mixed kids. When I go out, you know, to the mall, when I'm out at an event somewhere, there's a lot of, and not just black and white, but just blended families. So
Yeah.
I do think it's changing. I don't think that your kids will have the same experience necessarily that I had growing up. And for the better. I mean, there's still going to be people who don't get it, but I think it is getting a lot better.
If you all could say your life reflects a certain movie, what movie would that be?
Oh, wow.
I would need time to think about that here.
I love movies, Karen. This is a really hard question.
Okay. Colin's like, no, I don't have an answer for that.
Does it have to be a racial movie?
I mean, if you want it to be, but because I know we see a lot of movies that depicts these type of situations, and so it's like, if you could put your life in a movie, which movie would it be? Which movie reflects you the most?
Let's come back to that one. Yeah, I have to think about that one.
Okay.
Well, because the first one that comes to mind is Something New. When that movie came out, I love that movie, but I didn't.
You ought to see the face that Colin's making.
I didn't like that movie.
I did. Well, I didn't like her. I just don't feel she was so strong and like against dating a white man, and she let so many people decide for her that was hard in that movie. But I loved the outcome and the journey they took in that movie. But I wouldn't say that was
your
life.
experience.
Yeah.
I don't think there's enough movies like that. I mean, it's rare that you see an interracial couple in a very popular movie. You just won't see it very much. So from that aspect, I think we've got a way to go, because
I would say my experience was definitely not like Guess Who.
Okay.
And it's always made to be like this, oh my gosh, that's so shocking. Oh, she's with someone else of another race. And to me, it's like, what is the big deal? Why is this such a big deal to people?
What movie was it? Was it Forrest Whitaker? He was in a movie, and his neighbors, they were in a interracial relationship.
Oh, House on the Lake, or
No.
that was Samuel L. Jackson.
Samuel L. Jackson.
Yeah, that's who it
What
was.
is that?
Terrace Lake.
Lake Terrace.
Yes.
I think it was
That
Lake
movie,
Terrace.
OMG. that kind of put me on edge and it angered me because I was just like, this is not right. But the reality is we have people out here that's really like that.
There are people like that.
It's people out here that's just angry because they can't stand to see somebody else happy. They can't stand to see somebody else with someone of their race because they feel like it's a possessive issue. Like they own all the black women. No, you do not own all the black women. I mean, and vice versa. If it's a white girl with a black guy, why he got to be with a white guy?
Yeah,
or white girl. I mean, it's like, why does it matter?
Yeah,
that's his business. Let him do what he do.
Well, to be honest, I kind of have those judgments too, which is so weird because I'm mixed. So, but sometimes when I see a white woman with a black man, I'm like,
I'm glad I've had those moments too.
Which is so funny because
it happens.
So we all have that, but I have a lot of white girlfriends who are with black men, and I have nothing bad to say about their relationship, but there are those stereotypes. But then when I see a black woman with a white man, I'm like, oh, isn't that sweet?
But that's because the way you were brought up. That's because your father was white, so you're probably a lot more likely to take on to that way of interracial relationships versus the opposite direction.
Yeah. And I do think like the looks that you get, there's 4 different type of looks that you get. The looks that you get from white women, which would be like,
oh,
you mean you couldn't have found a white girl? Like
oh yeah, everybody gives you.
And don't let them be nice looking because then that just makes it all the way.
Oh, I mean they would right.
Yes.
So the looks you get from white women, and then the looks that you get from white men, which are like, that's okay, all right. So somebody else is doing it because I think black women are cute, but I'm too afraid to, I thought about that. Check him out. And then the looks that you get from black women, which are the same that are as the looks that you get from white men, which is like, okay, she's doing it, so maybe I could do that too.
Hold on, but we gotta size each other up. That's the other thing.
So?
Absolutely.
We're sizing, like, why? I mean, like, we're looking at the other girl, and we're just like, okay, why is he with her? Like, question mark? I don't understand. Like, what do she got that he couldn't get from a black girl? Or what do he got that she couldn't get from a black man?
Really? Okay.
It's really more so sizing each other up, and it's feeling like, I feel like I'm disrespected because I see you with this race.
Okay.
And that's what I've gathered from people that I always talk to. It's just like, it's almost like they feel disrespected.
Yeah, I mean, because I have that reaction sometimes when I see black men with white women. I'm just like, okay, But, which is so wrong. Isn't that wrong? So,
Francesca, you are too funny.
I love your bravery. I don't think I have those feelings, and I think it's wrong in those moments, and I'm glad they're fleeting.
They're fleeting, and you got to check yourself and like, wow, did you really just think that?
I think that's a product of your upbringing too, and some of what you dealt with, and some of that chatter you hear growing up that kind of leaks in. It's not necessarily that my heart is like that. That's a wrong situation.
No, right. It's just kind of a fleeting thought, and it's gone.
I will never forget. Go ahead, Colin.
Well, I was going to say, I think the self-awareness that's a thought that she has, I mean, that just helps to go to show that that's what everybody else, their initial reactions are too.
Wow.
And so to understand, we have to, in our position, we have to allow for people to process what it is. So we can't get offended by initial reaction.
Because you do the same thing. Yeah. So,
a lot of times people look at me, or, they'll give us the look, and, you can tell that they're just,
they're
give
just
us the side eye, but then after like 5 minutes, they're like, you guys are just so cute together, and you're the perfect couple.
They're just trying to figure it out.
The other thing is, they'll probably look at you, and then they'll hear you talk, and they'll be like, how's she with him? And he don't even act like a black dude.
Oh my God.
It's like people put you in those boxes.
They really do.
But I make the statement very often. Colin is way more hood than I am. I'm like, excuse me.
One thing that I remember years ago, I was working at the Black Expo, and I will never forget someone that I was working with saw a black girl come in with a white guy. And he was like, what he doing at the Black Expo? Like,
right.
And he was just like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that statement was even made. Like,
I had those initial reservations before my first trip to the Black Expo.
Have you been? I've never been to the Black Expo.
Really? OMG.
I've wanted to go. I just haven't been. But
I need you to get out and explore the city.
I know, but I would be afraid to go with a white guy. If I was dating a white man at the time, I actually think I would be intimidated to go. Which is so stupid. I would go anyway, but I would be, because people do judge you.
Absolutely.
And I didn't get to my last look, which is the way black men look at the couple, which I feel give the most negative response, in my opinion.
On the flip side, though, when it comes to black people, or it might be white people as well, when we see biracial people, it's like, oh, she's beautiful. Or it's like, oh, I want to have mixed kids because they're going to have good hair. Absolutely. And so it's like, these are our thoughts. It's like, we think all mixed people have good hair, and that's not the
true.
reality.
No, that's not true.
Okay, a good deal of them might, but not every single mixed individual have great hair. Francesca, by the way, she has beautiful hair.
Oh, bless you.
And just in case any of you are wondering, both of the ladies in the studio are like top-notch, like model status. They could be on the cover of magazines. So don't discredit just because of their articulation or just because of their upbringing. Don't think that that they're not beautiful, but they are very beautiful women, and they're educated. And so I just want to shed light because it's not often that we see individuals who are educated and have their head on their shoulders right and still decide to explore their options, I never forget when I was in college, it was this guy. He was white, and he was interested in me. And my mom, she decided to, she got all excited about him, talking about, hey, how about we invite him over for dinner? Like, Mom, you never invited any of the black guys over for dinner. So what's up with this? That's awesome. Needless to say, he never got over for dinner because I really wasn't interested in him like that. It was just a friend. And I knew, for me personally, we was over his house, over his parents' house one time, watching Comic View, and that was it. I realized
that wasn't going to work for you.
They were talking about black people and white people, and you know how that conversation goes, and it's just like, this is awkward. Like, I'm sitting in the room wondering, like, what is he thinking?
See, I've never had that experience. I wouldn't date someone that I didn't feel wouldn't be comfortable in that kind of situation.
Yeah.
So, and it's okay if you feel awkward. Then that's not for you, and there's nothing wrong with that.
I was gonna say stand up is the test because me and Colin, we can get down with some comedy. It doesn't really matter. We like to laugh, but we've gone to a comedy show in Peoria, Illinois, which is. It's a little iffy. They definitely understand I'm white, or black, and they keep a little separation more so than I'm used to an indie. But we go to this comedy show, and they sit us right in front. We didn't get there early or anything.
Really?
So, yeah, I was worried as soon as we get there. I'm like, okay, what's going to happen? And he made a joke about something, and he started a slow clap. And he goes, oh, everybody look to the black girl to make sure they're on time. And I don't even know if he called me the black girl, but he's like, everybody looks up front to see it and make sure they're all on time. And
did you like?
And I understood his joke, but at the same time, I felt very self-conscious. Yeah. I wasn't as comfortable as I wanted to be.
Yeah,
but it's an experience. It really
it got down to my mind started going haywire at that point. When I was sitting there watching Comic View with him, I'm like, OMG, how would he respond if people around me start saying the N-word? It's just like all these thoughts, like, oh my gosh, like. We can't exchange those words with each other, so
you can't exchange.
You can't. You should be able to, and if you can't, then
if I'm around my friends and he says the N-word, come on now.
Well, why would he say that first? But if you don't feel like you can exchange, then that's not a relationship that I think.
But some people, I know that's a very controversial topic, and so some people feel like you shouldn't be able to say it whatsoever. However, on the flip side. Some people still feel like it's okay as long as it's behind closed doors.
Right. Well, yeah,
I was like, let's do away with the word period. Let's just be done with it because it's too controversial. Some folks say it's a term of endearment, quote unquote. But how do you endear racism? How do you endear being a slave? I don't understand. How do you endear being lynched? That's a form of endearment. So, no, like, it put me in a very awkward position. Once I thought about all that, I said, I can't do this. I can't go that way. It's not for me.
And that's okay. That's all right.
I think everyone, because I'm a context person. Because I will jam out to a song. I will tell a good joke. And me and Colin have had back and forth about joking. And Colin's a great storyteller, and he'll tell a great joke. And every now and then, but does a joke lose value if you're not saying, if you're repeating it differently and things like that? So
I agree.
I'm very much a context person. I don't like to empower that word. If anything, I don't use it if I don't have to. to, but there are times when we're in Paris, you gotta jam out sometimes. So I just think you have to take it in stride. I think if you take it too personally, it's gonna affect you that deeply. It's not that deep.
Well, we're coming to the close of our show. But before we get out of here...
There's still so much to say.
We
need a part 2, Kira. We need a part 2.
I wanted to know, was there any final remarks that you all wanted to share as far as our audience, as far as educating them or anything?
I would like to say, Black women, if you're listening, please keep your options open, ladies. I mean, I think that white women, they don't feel really like they have to stick to one race, but I feel like Black women, they just feel very loyal, I guess, to Black men. And I would just say, just be happy and date who you want to date. So
Good.
I just want everyone to remember we're all human and love connects us all. And I don't think that there should be any boundaries with that love. And just stay true to yourself and you'll be fine.
Colin?
I would just say find the person that makes you want to live the next day. The person you want to spend all your time with is really all that matters.
Wow. Well, thank you all so much for joining us today. This has been a great show. Again, you all can tune in next Saturday, same time, same place, right here on The Love Factor, where it's all about relationships. Be blessed.